Welcome to Roll, Ponder, and Play, a podcast dedicated to crafting stories through the application of role-playing game engines, combined with creative thinking and propelled into the ether by the barest of prompts. I'm Jared Hess, taking on all the roles of Game Master, Solo Player, Author, and Narrator. Come with me on a journey, and together let us explore realms of shadow, danger, and wonder. One roll can decide the fate of many things. Welcome to episode 32 of the Queen of Shadows podcast on Roll, Ponder, and Play. I'm Jared Hess, Game Master, Solo Player, Author, and Narrator. In our previous episode, Eilwen discovers Valeri watching her by the fire. As they engage in conversation, she finds that Valeri had, long ago, actually met her mother Arwed, then a lovely blonde woman whom Valeri referred to as the Witch. This was many years ago, at the Circle of Redhall, when Valeri was but a young girl, and when Arwed was a beautiful woman in her prime. Valeri tells Eilwen that the witch had been unkind and cruel, and refused to help Valeri's ailing mother. Instead, the witch had the villagers scouring the hills searching for black iron. Valeri relates that when her mother died, she went to the witch's home to bring about some act of vengeance. But as she hid outside the witch's cottage in the woods, she instead witnessed what she believed to be some dark ritual which filled her with terror. She saw the witch pour what Valeri termed were the shades of the dead into a miniature raven formed from the molten black iron. The blonde witch subsequently used the device to summon a cloud of ravens and disappear amidst the flapping of wings. Valeri recognizes the witch's features in Eilwen's face and learns of the familial connection between mother and daughter. Eilwen tries to defend her mother, as much as she's comfortable doing, and shares some good memories of her mother, while also admitting that her mother taught her to call the shadows. Valeri admits she never knew Eilwen's mother well, that the witch was there in Redhall only a few weeks, but that she counted it a good day when the witch finally left Redhall. Eilwen mourns that her mother kept too many secrets, which prompts Valeri into sharing a secret of her own as she opens the leather tube that she had previously been so protective about. As we begin this episode, Eilwen's stats are Edge 2, Heart 1, Iron 1, Shadow 3, Wits 2. Current assets: Archer, initial box; Cutthroat, initial box; Shadow Walk, initial box. Current statuses: Supply, 4 out of 5, Spirit, 2 out of 5, Health, 5 out of 5, Momentum, 1 out of 10. Current debilities: None. Failure track, 7 out of 24. Current unspent XP, 3. And now, on to episode 32 of Queen of Shadows. I came north out of desperation, Valeri said, staring into the campfire's dying light. Yormid, clan chief of Redhall Circle, has my husband Edyard and my eldest son Gethard enslaved. The older woman gripped the leather case in a white-fingered grip, and her eyes narrowed, mouth creasing into a thin line, her cheek muscle pulsing from some remembered memory of pain. This Yormid deals in slaves? Eilwen asked. Valeri nodded, and Eilwen saw a fire smoldering in the other woman's eyes that mirrored the angry red that flickered in the depths of their campfire's coals. Aye, he has them digging after rumors of black iron in the hills near Redhall. Word of your mother's exploits must have gotten passed down over the years. Eilwen also stared into the coals at the flickering interplay of bloody light and shadows in their depths. and wondered at the black iron, the medium upon which the runes of power were engraved and in her possession. She thought of the iron raven Arwed had formed, to call the ravens to her, to use them in some fashion to disappear, to become one with the cacophonous cloud, the pendant she bore and its strange properties. Could she also learn these rituals? Learn to control such power? Such would prove most useful in the fulfilling of her vows. Anyway, Edward spoke out against Jormid over the mishandling of his slaves, Valeri continued. Eilwen blinked, and her eyes flicked back to the present pain in Valeri's voice and face. Jormid took it personally, as some grievous slight to his honor, and put both of them to work in the mines. I begged him to free them. At first he refused. Eventually he relented, and said if I brought him a large enough gift, he'd free my family. I wondered at what kind of gift that would be. What would be large enough? I tried offering him my home, myself in their places, but he said only an ancient treasure would recompense such a debt. An ancient treasure? Eilwen asked. What could he mean? There are some old ruins north of here. Rumor has it there's an old and hidden home of the old line of queens in these parts. Eilwen felt her breath catch and wondered if her sudden pounding heart would make the pendant that hung against her breast under her dark tunic start dancing about. She leaned forward, reached for the pendant, and gripped its hard metallic surface in her fist, felt its hard edges through the leather of her tunic. She thought of Greenholm with its amalgam of crumbling towers, choking vines, and dark holes for windows, its history told in the littered shards of broken colored glass, its finery and wealth and prestige, now reduced to a moldering heap under the grinding weight of time and nature. How do you know where to find this hidden home? Eilwen asked quietly and let go of the pendant. The other woman hadn't noticed. Because of this, Valeri said. She tapped the leather tube. Then, giving Eilwen one last look, she pulled a roll of thick, yellowed vellum from the mysterious depths of the leather case. She unrolled the skin on her lap. Eilwen rose and stepped gracefully over the coals of the fire to sit down next to Valeri. She saw what looked to be blocky runes that ran along the edge of what appeared to be a weathered map. What is it? She asked Valeri. This is a map Edyard found months ago while hunting. My husband stumbled upon some old ruins in the forest near Redhall. Valeri followed Eilwen's gaze and nodded at the runes along the border. Strange symbols, though, don't you think? I don't know what they mean. I cannot read such a script. May I? Eilwen asked. Valeri nodded and passed the vellum sheet over to Eilwen. Eilwen smoothed it out on her lap. In fading firelight and patchy starlight, she saw depictions of mountain ranges, a forest, a clearing, all in faded black ink. But it was the line of dense, blocky runes that caught her attention. She ran her finger over them, feeling the smooth, slightly waxy feel of the vellum as it glided over the calf skin. Her brow furrowed under her studied gaze as she scoured the symbols for meaning. Can Eilwen understand the symbols? I think it is likely, since she's actually been seeing and understanding these kinds of runes lately. And on a roll of an 8 for likely, I get a yes. Eilwen nodded and felt her heart beat faster. She made out words, mouthing them under her breath. Words about the crown. They had to be. We couldn't figure them out, Valeri said. But it was clear from these landmarks here, she pointed to the road and the mountain ranges and the forest, that this, and the older woman tapped finally on a small triangular symbol in a clearing to the north. is where the rumoured home of the old queen must be. It seemed a good bet that a hidden place hadn't been looted. With an ancient treasure from the old queen's home, I can purchase the freedom of my husband and son. Eilwen quickly tried to memorize the runes on the map. Does she memorize them? Eilwen is both intelligent and notices details. I'll say it is likely, and on a roll of a 9, I get a yes. What is it? Valeri asked, the other woman picking up on Eilwen's unspoken distraction and excitement. I was just thinking about what you said, Eilwen said, catching up from her distraction. But you can't go north. It's too dangerous. I have to. We were chased by Varu from near that region, Eilwen shook her head. Does Valeri know anything about the Varu? I think that is somewhat unlikely, and on a roll of a 3, I get a no. What are the Varu? Valeri asked, puzzled. The wind blew bloody red sparks that sputtered between their faces, followed by a stinging breath of smoke. They are wolfmen, Eilwen said, blinking her eyes against the smoke, resisting the urge to cough. The heedless forest breeze, after some seconds, whirled the smoke into a new direction, and it spiraled away from them, grey-dark against the canopy of black trees that blotted out patches of the star-studded expanse that wheeled above them. They're vicious, Valeri, with claws like a beast, but with the cunning of men. And they can use weapons, too. Seath said a tribe of them killed his wife, and that they had claimed this region for their own. And they hate humans. They slaughtered our horses, and we barely made it this far with our lives. But I have to try, Eilwen. It's my only hope to save them. It's suicide, Valeri. I'm no stranger to the blade, but even I had to flee into those woods, Eilwen demurred, and quickly related how they were attacked, though she left out any word of their stay at Greenholm, or the priceless treasure she now carried upon her breast. Valeri took the vellum map back and bowed her head over it, clutched at its edges with trembling hands. The woman seemed to sink into herself, her shoulders hunching inward towards the bloody glow which could offer no comfort to a heart that seemed to be crushed under a dark millstone of doubt, grinding out its flower of despair. But my family, I can't lose both my husband and another son. Her voice caught in her throat, the sound small and reedy, flat under the oppressive realization. Eilwen reached out a hand and rested it on Valeri's shoulder. We'll just have to find another way, Eilwen said. A pause. Valeri's head came up, and their eyes met. One set dark blue, nearly black in the firelight, trembling with need, as they met Eilwen's dark, determined gaze. We? A glimmer of hope and a question came into her face. Look, I'm heading south eventually, Eilwen said, withdrawing her hand and running it through her hair. I might be able to help. What of this Yormid? Eilwen said, moving on. She scratched at her nose. He sounds like trouble. Valeri nodded and sat up straighter. He's a large man, strong and cunning. He took control of Redhall 5 years ago in a duel in the circle. Eilwen grunted, remembering her own duel in the snow with the soul-corrupted Belvin. The tradition of the dueling circle solved many disputes in the settlements, but the results just as often brought about undesired consequences as the mighty used it to gain power over the weak. But it often prevented the large-scale effusion of blood that full-on warfare propagated. What else? Eilwen asked Valeri. His word is law. He's a cruel master, but he always keeps his word. Always? You trust his word? Someone who stole your family? I don't have much of a choice, Valeri shrugged. But he did swear upon our agreement in front of witnesses. By tradition, he's honor-bound to fulfill it. If he fails to do so, he has no authority in the clan. They know that, and he knows that. Eilwen thought of her own honor, her own oaths, their burdensome weightiness, and she nodded in somber contemplation. Then she turned again to Valeri. But no one has challenged his authority? Oh, there have been. 2 in the last year, in fact. But he killed them both in separate bouts in the circle. He's a skilled and fearsome warrior, Eilwen. Eilwen considered. The circle was dangerous. If she did help Valeri, she wondered if it would be better to confront Jormungand the circle, or through some other more secretive means. She thought of pulling the shadows to her, thought of Mother pulling... Was it really souls, she wondered, into the Iron Raven? Or was it just some other manifestation of power? Were whispering shadows souls, or just shadows? And your children? Why bring them? Eilwen asked. Why, indeed. Let us ask the Oracle. I used a button on RPGsolo.com, and I got a diversity realities. I had no choice, Valeri said. There was no one to watch them. Jormungand would have made slaves of them or worse. But what of Highcrag and Longfalls? You must have gone through those settlements to reach this road. Could neither of them offer aid? Valeri did pass through that way. Why weren't they able to take the children? Let's again ask the Oracle, and I get activity, magic. Valeri shook her head. Something is not right in Highcrag. It feels foul. I bypassed it. Feels foul? You mean it's worse than this ruined road? Eilwen asked. Aye, there's some darkness there. Magic, she whispered, and Eilwen felt a chill at her next words. Bad magic. Valeri made a warding symbol against evil. Dark? Like my mother's magic? Eilwen asked, chin high, a challenge in her voice. Let's ask the Oracle. 50-50 chance. And on a 3, I get a no. Valeri slowly shook her head and shrugged. I don't know. I don't think so. I didn't get a good look, but this felt worse somehow. Worse than your mother, even. And Longfalls? None would help, Eilwen. Being concerned about what was happening in Highcrag. The best I could do was trade some supplies for more food for my journey north here. Smoke carried scab-red sparks circling up where they rose into the night. Eilwen stared at the whirlwind of swirling, bloody stars as they were swept upwards upon smoky waves for a moment, then said softly, Uzak's Wolf-Fang warband is heading south to attack them. I have to warn them. The swirling stars died and became like leprous flakes that floated on the fire's failing heat, before a cold forest breeze swept them high away, revealing the white, cold stars again. Do you mean to warn Highcrag? Or warn this Wolf-Fang clan? Valeri asked, holding her gaze. Eilwen considered answering, but then shrugged. If Uzak Yavik and his Wolf-Fang clan were going to run afoul of some dark magic at Highcrag, she fully intended to let it happen. But Longfalls and Redhall, they deserve some warning. After a while, Valeri looked at the stars. I should go to bed, she said, and carefully rolled up the vellum map, sliding it back into the case's dark opening. She brought the flap back up and retied the leather bands. You are different from your mother, Eilwen, she finally added, laying a hand on Eilwen's arm. Thank you. Thank you for your help with my fen. She managed to get out in a trembling voice, tinged with profound sorrow and a regret that scraped Eilwen's own soul, as if with torn fingernails of some nameless grief. Eilwen nodded, swallowed the lump in her throat, and stood, shifting Valerie's touch to a grip of her own, that of a warrior hand grip. Come south with me, Valeri. I'll try to help your family if I'm able to, Eilwen said. Valeri studied her for a moment. Then finally she nodded and pulled Eilwen close in a brief but tender hug. Thank you, she whispered. They parted, and after a moment Valeri lay down next to her children by the fire. They nestled closer to their mother, and Valeri pulled a blanket around their shoulders before doing the same with her own mantle. Eilwen put a brace of thick logs upon the coals and blew at the space between, next to where the crushed coals gasped out their last of light and heat, where the heavy wood nearly overpowered the last light that flickered dully in fitful resilience. Her breath brought life. The coals rose crimson hot and turned to flickering tongues of orange flame, bringing life and heat even as it consumed the dead tree. Life and death, shadow and light. Aaron and Seath shifted in their sleep, and one of Valerie's children gave a small moan before sleep claimed her small cry. Those logs should last several hours, she thought, rubbing at the pine gum that clung to her hands, for as long as the forest breeze kept feeding it anyway, which in these woods, she had no doubt, would be the case. Eilwen moved back to her spot by Scratch, sitting back down upon the log. After a few moments, she felt the warmth from the flames slowly seep into her front, while the cold fingers of night still tickled her back. Scratch shifted and yawned a toothy yawn. Then he lay his snout on her leg, his eyes watching hers for a moment. What do you think, Scratch? She asked him. The wyvern was growing larger every day, it seemed. Soon he'd be the size of a small pony. Scratch yawned again, and as Eilwen rubbed the scaly ridge along his snout, his eyes drifted shut, and soon he returned to snoring softly. Eilwen watched the orange sparks drift upward, flaming out to a pale evanescence against the night sky. The runes on the map had held a message, a clue about the crown, but the words had been jumbled, unclear. She pulled at them now, surfaced slippery words from the well of her mind, where she now plumbed them anew. They surfaced and tumbled in her head, seeming random words and phrases like casting bones of dead meaning to dance about for her amusement. Over and over she reordered them, repeated them, pondered them, made them hers. Then the order became clear, for she was the crown's true inheritor. Let us ask the oracle what it says with some random verb-noun phrases, and figure out what the runes say and turn it into something that Eilwen can use. I get praise victory, adjourn war, and trust opulence. Eilwen whispered the words in time to the flickering tongues of fire. The old tongue's runes finally revealing a rough rhymed verse. Praise to the victorious one, who bears cleft crown reforged, redone, who ends our warring strife anew, and mends a sundered nation true. Find rent and ruined queenly crown, where life and light are beaten down. For gold and grace to come again, search retching swamp and a noisome fen. It must be somewhere to the south, Eilwen reasoned. The furthest point from the veiled mountains one could go. A low, warm place upon these lands where water gathered stagnant and still, unbound by the icy heights. She settled down upon her makeshift bed of pine needles, yawned, and pulled her thick cloak about her. Scratch shifted to lie down beside her, snuggling close between her and the fire, where he lay, lulled again back to sleep, sharing her warmth. She wondered where that place might be, and wondered yet more at Valeri's affirmation. "You are different from your mother." Was she really? How much of Mother's taint would pass from queen to struggling scion? Maybe Mother had been like she was now, innocent, seeking allies, searching for truth and help in a dangerous, careless world. Eilwen also called the shadows, made them her subjects, for she had been mother-taught. Were they really the shades of the dead, as Valeri claimed? The cheery fire didn't answer, as it popped and zipped lively sparks crackling upwards, buoyed aloft by flame and heat to dance with the stars. She shook her head on her pillowed arm. No, they were merely shadows, she decided. Dark spaces under rocks and ramage, coiling and waiting to be called, even within whited sepulchres. But maybe they were the dead. A voice tickled and rindled in the back of her skull, rankling her. She crushed the voice, crushed its dark leaves spotted with mold. Am I not queen? And if queen, surely they were tools to be used as a queen might use any subject that belonged to her. These two owed her their allegiance, didn't they? Then why not use them as any queen would use her own living subjects to accomplish the goals of the kingdom and crown? Tools such as these were meant to be used when heralds of night ranged over the earth from end to end, seeking her blood. Besides, Aaron always said... Another yawn took her, and some vague, faraway part of her barely registered that she wasn't thinking clearly at all. The weariness from the day's events, scattering her thoughts like so many bones falling from great heights, shattering coherence upon the sharp rocks of rationalization. He always said she should behave like a queen. So... surely they were just shadows, she reasoned, as sleep finally pulled her under. And she would be both queen of the living and queen of the shadows all at the same time. And who could blame her for having both as her footstool? Besides, she was still only Eilwen, hunted scion to a queenly line, bereft of a kingdom. Daughter to her mother Arwed, yes, but not her mother. She was still Eilwen. Okay, my friends, I am determined to do this without a script. This is like take 7 or 8 of this review thing. I am not good with Speaking spontaneously, I need things written out. But I am trying. Okay, this review comes from Alexers from the Ironsworn Discord, the Queen of Shadows thread there. And Alexers writes, This is great, very professional, nice pacing, and you have a knack for storytelling. And that was written right after episode 2, so about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And we are now at episode 32, so 30 episodes in. And that doesn't count all the other episodes I've been doing for other things on this channel. Anyway, thank you for that review, Alexers, and I hope you're still enjoying the show and listening to it. If anyone out there wants to leave a review, you can do so as Alexers did on the Queen of Shadows thread there on the Ironsworn Discord, or you can reach out to me at my email or on Podbean or on my Patreon. I'd love to hear from you. And if you leave a nice, beautiful review, I will showcase it. Also, I just wanted to plug the Solo Roleplayers Network. So go to soloroleplayersnetwork.com and find some other shows to listen to. There is some really great talent there, and I know you won't be disappointed. So check it out. Have a great time. Until next time. Bye now. Thank you for joining us, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed what you experienced. If you would like to support Roll, Ponder, and Play, you can do so in a number of ways. You can give the show a positive review on your podcatcher of choice. You can share the show with your friends and family and on your socials. Nothing beats word of mouth as a way to bring in new listeners. You can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Roll, Ponder, and Play. There you can find show notes and transcripts, as well as other projects I'm involved in. And paid subscribers get access to subscriber-only episodes, shows, and other content. Finally, you can simply reach out to me and say hello. Comments from you are what inspire me to keep doing this, and I'd sincerely love to hear what you think of the show. To do so, you can find me on my Patreon, or on Discord at Roll, Ponder, and Play, or by email at rollponderandplay@gmail.com. Until we meet again on Roll, Ponder, and Play, may your own dice rolls ever bring you success.